Hi and welcome. I'm Jennifer Bonoff, founder of BuildYourDigitalBrand.com. Doug and I are excited to share our interview series on personal branding. Hear from a diverse group of experts on the purpose and benefits of establishing your brand. Learn how to stand out and be memorable.
Hi, we're here today with Robyn Young on the Build Your Digital Brand interview series.
Robyn is a creative marketing consultant with 10 years of experience in content strategy, brand identity, and digital media management, working with large organizations such as UCLA and EQAL Media to small startups and even some celebrities, Tracy Ellis Ross, Harry Shum Jr., and Lauren Conrad. Robyn has a vast knowledge of the digital space for both business and personal brands. Many of her current clients exist in the travel, luxury, fashion, and e-commerce space. Robyn also contributes regularly to publications and online media on topics such as entrepreneurship and women in business, and she writes a travel blog for couples. Welcome, Robyn, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's get right to it. Do you feel that having a visible personal brand is important to the success of your clients?
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of my clients are small businesses, startups, or even musicians, artists, and I think regardless of which category you fit in, having a digital presence is establishing trust amongst your audience, right? So the first thing that I would do if I were to buy something from a small business is I do a little research on who that founder is. If I come in and find that they, have no digital presence or their digital presence doesn't seem to fit the realm of their product, I might start to question them, right, and question their product. So these days, having that presence is everything. It's about essentially building a reputation.
Okay. If a client had little or no visible personal branding, what 3 things would you tell them to do first to start the process of establishing their digital brand?
So the first thing that I do in working with my clients is I have them fill out a sort of personal branding worksheet where I'll ask them questions like, what does your brand represent? What are the sorts of nouns and adjectives and verbs that represent you as a person or, thinking of yourself as a brand? And then concurrently, I'll ask them, what are the things that don't represent you? I think knowing what represents you as well as what doesn't represent you is equally important, right? So that's the first sort of starting pitch that I have them, kind of initiate their brand awareness with. And then from there, I might ask them things like, if you could only work with one brand for, the rest of the year, who would that be? And I think getting them to think in that capacity, right, and kind of put themselves to one other existing brand allows them to think this beyond the scope of who they are in their everyday lives and attach themselves to, maybe one core set of values. So I think a lot of times what the issues that I have with startups and businesses is they're trying to accomplish too much at once. They're trying to represent so many different things, but we as consumers, we don't really latch on to businesses or brands or even people that way, right? So if you think about Oprah or Lady Gaga or Kanye West, they represent certain types of things and elements, right? And it's a lifestyle that they're really buying into, right? So it's not that you buy a book from Oprah and you're expecting it to be this grandiose thing. She's not actually, really an author by trade, right? But what you're buying into is a bit of her lifestyle, right? So, particularly for product, it's incredibly important to, first think about what is it that you represent, right, from a conceptual standpoint? And then secondly, what's a type of brand or company that you feel kind of embodies you and what you stand for? And then thirdly, I would just recommend that they Google themselves and see what shows up, right? So especially if if you're a millennial and you've been kind of jumping from job to job to job, which, I'm guilty of as well, you have to think about what exists out there in the digital world in terms of your name, right? Because that's what people are going to do. They're going to Google you. So if you're trying to, sell yourself as an expert in, whatever, let's say healthcare, but you have this experience in this completely other different industry, and that's all that pops up when you do a simple Google search, then what you might need to do is potentially write some articles or start a blog or open up a Twitter account and start talking about the industry that you actually want to be working in. So it's about projecting out there where you want to go, not necessarily where you've been, but where you want to go, right?
Okay, very good. Thank you. In today's competitive job market, it's difficult for a candidate to stand out to a recruiter or a potential employer. What advice do you give your clients to help them stand out and be memorable?
So there's a story that I'm reminded of here. It's not necessarily advice that I've given to my clients, but it is advice that I've given to folks who want to know about personal branding as it relates to job search. The VP of creative for Dollar Shave Club, right? He incredible person. He's really revitalized what they've done. The Dollar Shave Club is sort of a big player, especially in terms of marketing and their creative advertisements. I'm sure you guys have seen their videos, and commercials, and ads and whatnot. But this guy, before he moved to Dollar Shave Club, he'd done something really smart. So he purchased an ad for 5 different creative directors under their own names, right? So he knew that at some point those creative directors were going to be Googling themselves. So he purchased an ad for that particular name for 5 of these creative directors so that his ad would be the first thing that popped up. Right. And it would say something like, hi, I'm a copywriter and this is why you should hire me. Right. And it got their attention. He spent about $6 on it. It was a story that went viral. It was all over the news. He ended up getting 4 interviews out of it, 2 job offers, and he got his dream job working for Young and Rubicon in New York, which is a big time agency. I was so amazed by this story because it was something that was just so ingenious, didn't cost him a lot of money, didn't take him a lot of time. It was just a matter of, thinking creatively about how to stand out there, how to get past the noise, right? So yeah, he could have spent the time to, go in and apply for these jobs the way that everybody else does, or, think a little bit strategically, right? So, I think especially if you want to work in a creative field like copywriting or, art direction or work with an agency, so I know many people do these days, you have to hone in on those talents, right? Think about why are you strong? What makes this company want to hire you, right? And then leverage those talents, right? So it doesn't have to be something like that, but I think that that's an excellent example of using your digital presence to your benefit on a low budget, but something that is incredibly effective. It ended up getting 5.9 million impressions. So obviously Young and Rubicon was pretty happy with the marketing that they got from it as well. So I thought that was just a great story in general, and one that I think is really relevant here.
Very good. There are many digital assets a person might use in creating their own digital brand, including social media accounts, a personal website, and a blog. Each can have a positive or negative impact on someone's brand or reputation depending upon how they're used. What are your thoughts regarding online reputation management, and is it something you discuss with clients in relation to their personal branding?
Yes, I do. The way that what I recommend is having personal social accounts that you keep completely separate from your business. So if for me, for example, my personal Instagram account is private. So I only have friends and family on it. And that's for things that I just, that inspire me, that I want to post, pictures of my husband and I or my friends and I. Like it's very separate from, for example, my travel blog, it's a very structured social channel, right? And it's got a certain look and feel to it. So I don't just go on and post whatever I feel like. I really try and stick to the type of content that I feel like my viewers are interested in. And I think that that's something that you could do across all of your channels. So, determine whether that's something that you want to have a professional look to it and therefore make it be public, or if you want it to stay more personal and therefore you need to think about making it private. Right? If you don't have the time or desire to manage that many social accounts, well, then you may need to find a way to kind of integrate that into, into your social branding, so to speak, right? So a trick that I know a lot of up and coming celebrities will do is if they want to stay anonymous on a social account, they'll actually switch their name up a bit. Right? So they might switch the letters of their first and last name so that when you do a Google search, it doesn't come up, right? Because they want to be a little bit more free in what they can post on there. And then they have their fan pages, which is the more public-facing platform. So I think there are definitely ways around keeping, your personal life in terms of social a little bit more private, and then keeping your public profile something that is not only on brand, but also, moving, just keeping it within the context of what your personality is and what your goals are for your profession, right? So I try and always kind of keep things pretty PC, and I recommend my clients do that as well, unless their brand is to, be a little cheeky and take some risks, right? So it really just depends on, starting with that brand element and kind of moving from there, determining what makes sense for your brand.
Very good. And the last question for today, do you think it's beneficial for individuals to create and publish content related to their industry or areas of expertise in order to increase their online visibility and establish their authority?
Yes, absolutely. From an SEO standpoint, this is everything. And there's so many media outlets and blogs and, ways to go about this. Medium, you don't need any kind of credentials. You can go on there and post about any old thing that you'd like. I think, viewers are probably going to take you a little bit more seriously if you have something more than just a Medium article. But I think most online media are open to new writers with fresh ideas. It's simply a matter of getting out there and pitching your idea. And it needs to be something fresh, right? If you do a simple Google search for something and it comes up with 50 results, that's not a fresh idea, right? Find a new way to put a different spin on it, but make sure that it's obviously on brand. And then obviously one of the easiest ways is to start a blog of your own, right? That's a platform that you're not going to have to do any outreach for. You can just create one either on WordPress or Squarespace or something of that nature. It's usually free or, basically free, and start getting your ideas out there. But I think it's powerful because it points to, it allows you to point to something where you say, hey, this is my passion, right? This is something that I would do even if I were not paid to do it. I think from an employer standpoint, that's what they want to see. Right? They want to see that you actually have an interest in this field, right? So if you're interested in working in, the travel industry or fashion or whatever, you need to be curious about that industry, right? And also potentially, write within that field. And the more that you can get your name out there as an expert within that capacity, the more likely you are to get a position in that field.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Robyn, thank you for joining us today on the Build Your Digital Brand interview series on personal branding, and we appreciate all your insight and information, and I'm sure it's going to be helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much. And congratulations and good luck to everybody.
Thank you.